Now loading Bro Op Radio.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the 7th episode of the Bro Op Radio podcast, the podcast that is not dense and is well aware of who the hell the goddamn Batman is. I'm your host, Tenseiken, joined as always by my bro operatives. I got Justice, jGatzB, and Super 64. How's it going, guys?
Hello.
Good. Hey, everybody.
Great.
Awesome. We got an awesome episode ahead for you guys. We talked about it last week for those of you who joined us. Tonight is comic book movie related. Basically, well, comic book on screen, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So what we got on the agenda tonight, guys, is we're going to talk about the Spider-Man costume reveal for the Captain America Civil War movie that's coming out here pretty soon. We're going to talk about Season 2 of Daredevil and what we thought about that. Was it better than Season 1? I don't know. Fuck, we'll see. And then we're going to talk about the much-anticipated blockbuster of March. Batman v Superman, Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice. Now, normally this is the part of the podcast where we talk about comments and what we've been up to. Fuck that shit. We got so much stuff to talk about. We're going to kind of get straight into it. As far as comments, we just podcasted last week, so don't really have nothing. As far as what we've been up to, I mean, Chase had Easter with his family last weekend. Ian went to the wedding of one of his best friends today. Jesse's been doing God knows what, and I've been working. So there you go. We're all caught up at this point. So without further ado, let's go straight into the Spider-Man costume. Jesse, I know you've been eager to talk about this particular subject, so I'll let you kick us off. What's your thoughts on the Spider-Man costume from Captain America Civil War?
Okay, yeah. Well, if you guys haven't seen it already, this was something that I was really pumped about just because we knew that Spider-Man was going to be in Civil War because after the rights got all sorted out, they were just like, yeah, expect Spider-Man's Marvel Cinematic Universe reveal to be in Captain America Civil War. But to be honest, you know, how much Spider-Man we were going to see in the movie was still really up in the air. So I didn't know if I could really expect to see him in the trailer. And a lot of people were not expecting to see Spider-Man in the trailer at all. Largely because a lot of people were just like, oh, his appearance will probably only be a cameo. So to be honest, I have more than his costume to talk about. But let's go ahead and start with the costume itself. So we've all seen it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. The very first time I saw this costume, I was not sure about it. Did anybody else have that initial reaction, or was it pretty positive when you guys saw it at first?
As soon as I saw it, I was kind of like, eh.
Yeah.
But then I was just like, eh.
Yeah, that. I'm gonna be honest, Ian. Somehow you completely captured how I felt in that moment. I think part of the problem is that when I first saw this trailer, it wasn't on a good resolution monitor. So I saw it and I was just like, oh, damn, really? Because I was particularly worried about this costume because, in my personal opinion, the Amazing Spider-Man 2's version of the costume was perfect. Like it was very big expressive eyes, you know, and the fucking web lines aren't goddamn silver like they were in the original Spider-Man films. I was just like, it can't get any better than this. And then I saw this costume, and my initial reactions was, what the fuck did they do to it? The first thing I want to talk about are the chevrons. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for the Twitch audience, what I mean by the chevrons is I mean those like black arrow shapes on his body. He's got some on his upper arms, and he's got some marking where the boot portions of his suit end. And at first I was like, why the fuck are those there? Like they serve no purpose, and they kind of distract me from an otherwise really good costume.
Mm-hmm.
But the more I thought about it, the more I was just like, I don't know, this to me seems like the small touch that they may have added to this to make it the like Marvel Cinematic Avengers version of this costume. Like to just be like, yeah, this is within this universe, it's within this stylizing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I have other theories as to why they're there. But a big thing that I really want to talk about are the eyes. How do you guys feel about the eyes?
Me personally, I really like the eyes, and when I saw them do that squinting motion, that got me super excited. Like I was like, finally, we have like motion what's the word I'm looking, how am I trying to say this? Like eyes that actually kind of give Spider-Man's facial expression to an extent out, like we're used to from the comic books and the animated series and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
At first I thought it was just like the Deadpool CG effect like they use for Deadpool's eyes.
Yeah.
And then of course people have pointed out since then, if you go back and watch it, it tends to have kind of more of like a camera lens shutter, effect instead. Like you can actually even hear the sound of the shutters closing up, which to me is fine because it seems like it's a more realistic reason for his eyes to do that.
Yeah, and I kind of want to jump off of that. So I don't know how much basis this has in Peter's actual creation of his costume, but in the concept art for Superior Spider-Man, which was a whole different fucking shebang, it showed an actual mechanical explanation of the eyes being to get bigger and smaller, and it was literally camera shutters. So I think that that's what we're looking at here. I think that this may, in fact, be how Peter takes photos, is through these eyes, but we can't say that for sure. But the biggest thing I really wanted to talk about real quick and then dig into my theory is the logo. I know Chase has thoughts on the logo.
Yeah, when I first saw the costume, I thought it looked good. I was like, "Oh man, that's great! It looks excellent. It literally looks like it's painted on his body, like it's so tight, like it's supposed to be."
Yes, that's a good point.
It really shows off his muscles and how toned he is, and he's just fucking Spider-Man. And then later on, I think me and Jesse got to talking about it, and he's like, "Yeah, about the logo." And I looked at it again, and I was just like, "Oh God." It looks like shit. Like, not the whole suit, but just that logo. Like, I hate how fucking tiny and it looks like a tick.
It's real small.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then something else about the logo is his back logo is the big tick-looking logo, but that's also very authentic to the actual Spider-Man costume. His back logo is different than his front logo, but this is probably the smallest front logo I've ever seen. But if you get a good look at the front logo, this is something that I think is really important. It's kind of a hexagon shape. It's got a very sort of like digital style to it, which leads me to my big theory. A lot of people have been wondering if they're going to see the Iron Spider costume in this movie. Guys, we're looking at the Iron Spider. Like, this is not the Iron Spider we're familiar with, but this is Tony Stark's handiwork. I'm going to call it right now. That's what this suit is.
Yeah, I've been thinking the same thing.
Well, if you look up on his, I guess it'd be his left shoulder, where that, I don't know what bone that really is there, but where it's coming out, that does look kind of metal.
Yeah.
Like
perhaps.
a metallic, like, it looks odd.
Yeah. I don't necessarily think that that's what it is, but at the same time, my big theory is that I think before this scene, we're probably going to see an amateur Spider-Man, like first getting his start, and we're probably going to see an amateur suit. And I think one of his biggest incentives to join Tony's side is Tony offering to buy him a suit. And the big reveal of or not buy him a suit, Jesus Christ. Like, just buy him one at fucking Hobby Lobby, goddamn. I meant to say build him a suit. And then I think the big reveal of that new suit that he built will be this scene where he appears. Which leads me to the big thing I really want to discuss outside of the suit itself. This trailer and the way they revealed Spider-Man reveals a lot more about his involvement than I think a lot of people realize. Because this is not a goddamn cameo. Like, this is Spider-Man jumping into the pivotal fight at the climax of the movie. Like, this was a huge thing for me realizing this, because this means Spider-Man's going to be way more important in this movie than a lot of people realized. Like, to the extent that we may get to see many of the scenes with Spider-Man that we didn't expect to see. Now, that does beg the question, though. Do you guys think that we're going to end up seeing the Punisher in this movie at all? Or Daredevil, for that matter? I mean, they exist in the MCU, but are they really established enough for us to expect them?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. Maybe down the road. I mean, the Netflix original series did make a point to make connections to the MCU, with events and stuff. Like, they never explicitly came out and said, oh, hey, when the Avengers and stuff like that. But they commented about the battle for New York and all that different stuff that happened in the movies. But they never made it just too explicit. And like you said, I think they kind of have their own little thing going on with Netflix. I don't think they're established enough yet to be put into the movies. But it wouldn't surprise me because, I mean, it's all connected, so I can see it happening down the road, but I don't think it's going to happen right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I kind of expect the same. Like, I've been gearing myself for disappointment with this movie because none of the trailers make it look like the Civil War that I read in the comics. Like, it's way too bright, like the visual theming is wrong, the storyline is wrong, but seeing this Spider-Man gives me a lot of hope. Like this suit is the most comic booky suit we've seen yet. Like, and with the exceptions of the weird, like, Tony Stark style elements to it, I think that this is a really strong indicator that we're going to get a very authentic Spider-Man moving forward. Do we have any other comments about the suit? Because I really led that, and I didn't mean to just sort of talk over anybody's input.
No, you did fine. No? I personally really, really like the suit. I liked it the moment I saw it. It was a very nice throwback to like classic Spider-Man, you know, because the movies that or the suits that we've seen so far in the movies, like Tobey Maguire's suit was kind of that classic Spider-Man, and then Andrew Garfield's version was a little bit more modernized, I guess you could put it.
The first movie suit was probably my least favorite
out of all of them. Yes, I agree, especially with the yellow tinted eyes and.
I don't even want to think about it.
But I'm with you though. The second Amazing Spider-Man suit was almost spot on for me. Like, I love that suit. And I actually really like that movie in general. I'm actually I would like to see that particular universe continue, but that's not going to happen, and that's nor is that the topic we're talking about. But I personally really like the suit from Civil War. I think it's a good suit that if they do more Spider-Man films or anything like that, if he keeps this suit moving forward, I'll be okay with it. But I also think it's a good suit. It's a good starting point.
I honestly think that a lot of the things we don't like about it, like the small logo and the chevrons, are going to get washed out with the first revision.
I think so too.
Yeah. And we'll be left with probably the most authentic Spider-Man suit that's ever been made. So that's going to be really neat.
If I could change anything about it, I would honestly probably make the red just a little bit darker, because it's the trailers I've seen it in.
Ooh, that's a good point. Yeah. Because this was something that Chase and I talked about how bright it was, and I was like, man, the first time that I saw it, the first thing I thought of was cow killer ant. Like those fuzzy ass red ants. That's what it reminds me of.
Yeah, it's a little lot.
He takes Ant-Man's place.
Yeah. He's gonna murder him in this movie.
Just gonna step on him.
Ant-Man's the big death that everyone seems to assume is gonna happen. So yeah, it's gonna be great.
Ant-Man's the big fucking emotionally evoking moment.
Most people in the theater are like, "Who is this?"
Paul Rudd, we barely knew you.
Yeah,
but not overall though. Going back to the main subject, I really like the outfit. I like the reveal in the trailer. I just don't. I like his voice. You know, if we're going to talk about the character himself, I like his voice. He sounds like a fucking teenager. Finally, because Spider-Man is 15 years old when he becomes Spider-Man, so he needs to be young when he starts off. And we don't know how long the Spider-Man's been around, but give or take just a couple of years at the most at this point. So I like the fact that he sounds young. It's just, for me, if I was going to reveal him, I probably wouldn't have had him say anything at all right there, because he took the shield, he landed on the car, he looked up, squinted his eyes, looked kind of badass, and all of a sudden, hey everyone.
But at the same time, shot the birds.
But at the same time, I love that personally.
Oh, really?
Because to me, that is them putting their foot forward and saying, we're going to have an awkward, dorky Spider-Man. Because don't get me wrong, I liked Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, but a lot of people's criticisms of Peter is that Peter was Peter seemed like the most popular guy at his school. That doesn't make any sense. That's not Peter Parker. Yeah. So it is interesting to see this sort of goony Spider Boy, and I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, I can see your point there, and that's a good point to make. But I stand by my original thoughts about it. I probably would have done the reveal a little bit different, but either way, I'm super, super excited about it. I mean, we finally have Spider-Man in the main MCU. Still working on X-Men, which that's wishful thinking at this point, probably, but you never know. So we finally get to see Spider-Man in the current movies, and I'm excited to see that happen.
Hell yeah.
Awesome. Well, okay, so that pretty much covers that. We figured that'd be kind of a quick topic now. Let's get into the real just meat, the real juicy,
just juicy, medium rare meat.
Medium rare, bloody, gory fucking just
What kind of
suck it.
podcast is this, you guys?
I don't fucking know. We got let's get into our next topic now. We got Daredevil season 2 just came out on the 18th of last March, if I'm not mistaken. There, if you guys are like us, you probably binge watched that within just a few days of it releasing. I was really psyched about season 1, and I couldn't wait to watch season 2. Chase, I know you've been a pretty avid follower of Daredevil since it came out on Netflix to begin with. We'll let you kick us off. Let's just get straight into it. Was it better than season 1?
For me personally, I liked season 1 better. I really did. Now season 2 is not bad by any means. You need to watch it.
Yeah.
It was fucking excellent. But if I had to pick one of the two, I think I would pick season 1, and that's just my personal opinion.
Well, I see
we'll
where
go
you're
over the
coming from.
reasons
Yeah.
here soon throughout these other topics under Daredevil. So like now, I'll pass it off to one of you guys. And did you think it was better than season 1 or about the same?
I liked season 1 slightly better, but they are two completely different beasts in their own ways. But I still loved season 2.
I'll say this much about season 2. Season 1 was a very well-constructed single story. Like, all of season 1 was one story. Season 2 was a collection of stories. And so it didn't quite feel like it was a big epic. Season 1 was kind of a suspense-filled epic. Season 2, to me, felt more like exposition. Like, we're setting up for season 3. But I could be wrong. It's just, that's sort of how it felt to me.
I personally
agree with that.
I personally liked season 2 better. And it's not about like a landslide or nothing. Season 1 was fantastic. And season 2, I had the same feeling with it as I did season 1, where I couldn't wait for the next episode. If it was late at night and I had to wait till the next day, it killed me because I wanted to watch the next episode. So personally, I like season 2 better, but I mean, they're both just fantastic seasons. I mean, Netflix really has something going strong here with the Daredevil series, especially. I personally liked it better than Jessica Jones. Actually, I'd say I like both Daredevil seasons better than Jessica Jones, but Jessica Jones also is really, really good. But the Netflix originals for the Marvel universe are really good. I'm really excited for Luke Cage. But going back to Daredevil, season 2 was really good. I thought the fighting was a little bit better choreographed, which is kind of hard to say because the fighting in season 1 was really good as well. Matter of fact, if we're talking about fighting, I guess we can go ahead and talk about that kick-ass hallway scene if you guys want to jump into that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because, I mean, season 1 had a badass fight scene where Daredevil's in the hallway and he's just beating down thugs left and right, and it's all a one-shot scene. So, I mean, they never cut away from it, nothing like that. It's like a 5-minute scene where he's just beating down people, and it was really awesome and felt realistic because you can see him getting worn out as he's going through. He's breathing heavy by the time it's over with. Fantastic. And I didn't think they could outdo that. Well, fuck me. They outdid it in season 2, in my opinion, with the hallway scene that they included in this season. You guys have any thoughts on on that before I get started with it?
I do. In a weird way, I thought it was kind of lazy of them to do it again. Like, I really, really liked that scene in the first season. That's probably my favorite scene out of the whole season 1. Mm-hmm. And then when I was watching season 2, they did it again, and I was like, oh man, this is this hallway scene. And I was immediately like, they're going to do this again? Like, really? Already? Like,
yeah, well, I think the already element is what got me, is that it felt like it was kind of early in the season. Like,
yeah, it was. It was like the 4th episode. Somewhere in that area.
But I didn't mind it, and I thought it was cool that it wasn't exactly the same kind of scene. Like, most of it occurred in a stairwell. Mm-hmm. I thought that worked really well. The stairwell added a lot of layers to the way that they choreographed that, and that was really cool. But I found myself not paying a lot of attention to it, honestly. Like,
I did too.
I found myself doing other shit while that was going on. And so to me, if that happened to me, it didn't really capture my attention as strongly as the first scene did. But I don't know if it's their fault. Like, it might just be that I'd already seen one of these at this point, and I was no longer nearly as invested. I don't necessarily think that should reflect negatively on the choreography of the scene. It was still really good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, personally, I was amped during the scene. Like, the second scene, I was just like, oh shit, they're doing this again. And they kicked it up a notch, because like you said, it was on a stairwell. The first season scene took place entirely in one hallway. It was just one shot of the same spot. This scene was still a one shot, but it followed Daredevil. He's going downstairs, he's going through hallways, He's just beating people left and right. He's throwing people down the stairwell. And what's interesting is I went back and actually watched a behind-the-scenes kind of thing about that. And there was people, like the people he beat up first, those actors had to get up and run downstairs so they could get beat up again. And like they spent like 4 days rehearsing that scene, and it paid off in the end. And you guys talk about it being early. I mean, the hallway scene from season 1 took place in like the 2nd episode.
Yeah, and I noticed that whenever I said it out loud. I don't know why I felt like that. But at the same time, I guess I kind of did. Almost like if they were going to do a reprisal of that concept, it should have been later in the season. But for what fucking reason do I feel that way? Who knows? Like, I don't really know why I feel that way.
Well, you might feel like that if I was to take a guess at it, because it's such an epic scene, or at least it's meant to be.
Yeah.
And it kind of seems like something that you would sort of, end a movie with, or get close to the end of the movie, or something like that, whereas this took place in the first half of the season.
Yeah, and speaking of endings, I do feel like it would have fit really well in the ending.
I do too.
Yeah.
And also, to me, if you want a hallway scene from Daredevil Season 2, you want Frank Castle's hallway scene.
See, honestly, whenever we first started talking about the scene, I thought that's what you were talking about. But yeah.
Oh, shit. I forgot Frank got a hallway scene.
Yeah, and it was the best scene of the entire season.
Oh, my God.
His was pretty badass, actually.
That's a good point. Okay, yeah. So so that kind of more than makes up for that Daredevil one.
Mm-hmm.
Is that Frank's was so goddamn cool.
Yeah, but I mean, speaking of Frank, we were introduced to 2 new characters in this season with Punisher and Elektra. Let's see here. This is Punisher's first on-screen appearance since Warzone with Ray Stevenson back in 2008.
God, I forgot Warzone.
Yeah. And then this is Elektra's first on-screen appearance since the god-awful Elektra sequel to Daredevil back in 2005 featuring Jennifer Gardner. So let's start with Punisher. Casting, the portrayal, what have you. Who wants to kick us off with this? Who has thoughts on the Punisher this season?
I could go ahead and start because I didn't think he was going to be any good.
Really?
Really?
In the trailers, I would hear him talk, and I would be like, "This doesn't sound like Frank Castle. This sounds like Goonie Broy, dude." Like I that's how he sounded to me. I don't know why, but that's how he sounded to me.
It's the Punisher we need.
His look didn't hurt me. Like I'm not that familiar with this actor. But I was just like, he looks okay. But like, I don't know necessarily how much he looks like Frank Castle to me. But you also got to keep in mind, like my favorite run of my favorite run of the Punisher is the one where he looked straight up like Big Boss. So like,
beard and everything.
Yeah,
yeah.
I like that Punisher. That shit. But for a guy starting out as the Punisher, I'll say that I ended up enjoying it far more than I thought.
Yeah.
As I grew to learn more about the character, I was just like, holy shit, he's killing it. Like, I personally feel like...
Yeah. Oh shit, he's killing it.
Literally
He's killing him.
He's killing the fuck out of that guy.
Yeah, I liked the way he delivered all of the lines. I feel like he was very emotive, and in a weird way, I empathized more with the Punisher than I ever have before.
Yeah.
I think that's something he got really well.
I agree. I feel like this Punisher was a good mixture of like what the Punisher's supposed to be. Whereas I feel like the Punishers up until now, although they did I think most of them did good jobs. I feel like all the ones until now have been more of the silent badass than the actual like emotional side of the Punisher. And this one definitely had that emotional side as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was a really good combo of the two.
Yeah, and I have to agree with you there because that's not something that we've seen previously in the on-screen versions. At least, okay, well, let me just be honest here. We know there was that Dolph Lundgren Punisher movie that came out in the 80s. I've never watched it, and I probably never will.
I've seen it. I have seen it, and it was not... Okay, it was bad. It was really strange to watch, but you can keep talking.
Yeah, I hadn't seen that, nor do I plan on watching it, but I can't imagine there was a whole lot of just emotional investment, with the character in that movie. And I haven't seen Warzone because I heard it was pretty bad. And I didn't really like Ray Stevenson. I like him okay in some of the stuff he's in, but I wasn't thrilled about him being the Punisher. I personally really liked the 2004 Punisher movie with Thomas Jane and John Travolta. And I actually just watched it a couple of days ago too to kind of reassure myself of how much I actually enjoyed this movie. And I thought Thomas Jane played a fantastic Punisher in that film, but it's pretty much like the only emotion you see out of him is when his family first gets killed, And then from that point on, it's just pissed off, silence, revenge,
Yeah.
And that's kind of what Ian was mentioning, is that's kind of the Punishers we get on screen nowadays. Whereas this Punisher was definitely pissed off revenge, but I mean, there was a lot of just like emotional heart-to-hearts. Like, he had that heart-to-heart with Karen in the restaurant and some different stuff like that. So this particular portrayal showed a lot of emotion, and I think that's a strong characteristic for the Punisher. I mean, emotion's what fuels him. It's the whole reason why he's on this revenge crusade to begin with, because of his love for his family and whatnot. So, yeah, I agree with Ian on that, because we got to see badass Punisher and, like, loving, emotional Punisher at the same time. It was a nice balance combo of the two.
Yeah, and it's important to show it's really important to show the human side of him, because without that, you miss the whole point of the character.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely humbles the character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But going back to what I thought about the Punisher in this season, overall, I loved him. I thought he would have to do a lot to make me like him more than Thomas Jane. But at this point, I actually give him the edge over Thomas Jane. I personally really liked, what's the actor's name? John Bernthal? I don't know. But anyway, and Jesse.
Bernstein Bears.
That's it. And Jesse, you said you're not
Bernstein Bears.
You don't know too much about the actor that played him. I'm in the same boat, and the reason why is because you and I don't watch Walking Dead.
Exactly.
Evidently.
But Chase, that posed a weird problem for you, didn't it?
Yeah, and it was, I don't know if I've said this on any other podcast. I know I've told these guys, but I'm going to go ahead and say it anyway. Like, when I watched Jessica Jones, the actor that plays Jessica was Jane from Breaking Bad. And Jane in Breaking Bad is a real piece of shit. I'm not going to ruin that for anybody who hasn't watched that by now. But, and then the guy that played the Punisher, he was also Shane from Walking Dead, who, guess what, is a real big piece of shit. So, like, it was really hard for me to like either Jessica Jones or the Punisher in these two seasons, because I was just like, God damn, I hate that character.
You kind of had to let him grow on you, didn't you?
Yeah, definitely had to let him grow on me, because like, okay, Jessica Jones acts nothing like Jane, but the way that actor talks, he kind of has the same, not necessarily emotion, but he sounds just like Shane. The way he talks, the way he pronounces things, like he doesn't have a wide range in the way he talks. Mm-hmm. So like all I could hear was Shane, and I was just ready for Rick to kill him.
And I remember when you told us about that the first time, Chase, when we had the private conversation about it, is that you said you didn't know a whole lot more about this actor outside of Walking Dead or Punisher, so you didn't know if this is just the way he talks in general. I actually saw a brief interview of him on Conan the other night, and his normal just talking voice is totally just different and way more laid back than his Punisher voice. So yeah, it sounds like he kind of recycled elements of that character, that voice anyway, for this show. But me not being involved with Walking Dead, that didn't bother me at all, and I thought he played Punisher fine in this season. But I can understand your point, because I had a similar issue in season 1 with Karen, because, and I'm about to admit something here, but I've watched True Blood with my wife. I'm married, so you have to watch stuff, and True Blood actually isn't that bad in the last few seasons, but I digress. But anyway, Karen, the actress that plays her, is in True Blood, and she plays a vampire, and she's kind of a slut and all this. So I kind of had to get used to that as well. And then we talked about the guy who plays Foggy. The example I used with you guys when I talked to you about it was that he was in Butterfly Effect. Something I've realized since then is he plays Doomsday in the Max Landis video.
He does, though.
Oh my God, he does.
And I'm surprised that I haven't brought this up to any of you guys, but as soon as I started watching Daredevil, I was like, God damn it, that's fucking Max Landis' Doomsday.
Yeah. And that's actually where I recognize him from the most, because I knew when I was talking to you guys before, there was something that he was in that I was, picturing him in, other than Butterfly Effect, but Butterfly Effect was the only thing I could think of. No, he's fucking Doomsday in the Max Landis Death and Return of Superman video.
Shit, they could have brought him in for BVS and it would have been a better Doomsday.
Holy shit. Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. We can compare Doomsdays here in a little bit. But, that's the same problem I had with letting a couple of characters grow on me. But overall, I'm used to it now. Punisher, I was super impressed with Punisher. And man, he was raw too in this. They did a good job of making him we talked about the hallway scene. I mean, it was him against 10, 12 people, and he had nothing with him but well, he had nothing at first, and then he, borrowed one of them had a broom. He stole that from him. He's stabbing people. It's just
Stabbing people with a broom.
yeah. Well, he broke it in half and shit, so he didn't just stab him with like the straw. But anyway, yeah. So Punisher, huge thumbs up from my end for the Punisher from this season. I can't wait to see more Punisher because he didn't actually have that image of the Punisher till the very end of the season with a skull and everything. They waited till like the last episode or two before they actually revealed that for him.
And that really pissed me off because you got to see the skull for every bit of like 3 seconds.
Mm-hmm. And then,
But it looked good.
It did look good.
It really did.
And then like in the promotional material and everything, he had the skull the whole time, but they didn't show it to the very end of the season. So, but Punisher, I think we can all agree was really well done in this season. It's basically what we're saying,
Hell
right?
yeah,
Agreed.
Yeah, I agree too.
All right. Moving on to the second character that was introduced this season was Elektra. I was
Electro from Spider-Man.
From Electro. Yes. Jamie Foxx reprised his role as Electro, as Maxwell Dillon. No. But Elektra finally showed up about halfway through the season. Actually, kind of right after the main Punisher story to start the season off, she showed up.
Yeah.
And I don't know anything about this actress at all. I don't even know how to pronounce her name. Elodie Young? I don't know. Forgive me if I mispronounced that. But the casting, I thought she played Elektra pretty well, but I was pretty Oliver's going crazy. But I was kind of intrigued by their relationship they set up between her and Matt. Do you guys have any thoughts on that, or was that kind of more what you were used to, or what?
I'm very unfamiliar with the character of Elektra,
Okay.
but I did like the way they set it up.
Yeah, it was pretty authentic, I think.
You think so?
From what I know of, I'm a pretty big Daredevil fan, but I don't know a whole lot about their relationship. But from what I've seen and stuff, it was pretty good because they've been off and on relationships, and she's died a few times, so everything seems to fit.
Yeah. Well, the actress they cast set that. She filled that character portrayal of Elektra for me, in my opinion. She had the accent, Elektra's, I don't know where she's from or anything like that, but I know this.
Is it not Greek?
Yeah, I thought she was supposed to be Greek, but I didn't really take that too seriously, to be completely honest, because I couldn't fucking identify what the hell she was supposed to be. But I was just like, but she's exotic. Instead
exactly.
of being fucking white like last time.
She definitely played the character better than Jennifer Gardner did in the movies.
Yeah. We didn't get any Evanescence.
We didn't get Amy Lee or the dude from 12 Stones to sing.
Holy shit, y'all are right. I now hate Daredevil.
Yeah, unfortunately. We can actually, which is funny, we have an Evanescence episode coming up next, so we'll talk about, we'll promote that here in a little bit. I'm sorry, that's my one day late April Fool's joke to you guys. Yeah, I'm not too familiar with the Elektra character myself. One thing, and I guess maybe I'm jumping ahead a little bit here, but one thing that kind of really caught me off guard was them killing her off in this season already, because she didn't die. Because correct me if I'm wrong, but Bullseye does kill her, right?
Yeah. To be honest, for any of you that have seen the original Daredevil film, her death by Bullseye is probably the most authentic scene-for-scene recreation of a comic book set of pages I've ever seen.
Yeah, I would agree.
That's basically how it happens.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I was a little surprised that it didn't go down that way.
Yeah, because the way they were building her character was that I felt like they were building her up now, and they're going to get you like emotionally attached to her, and her and Matt were going to fall in love. Because I didn't feel like her and Matt had a very close relationship right before her death. Because when I think of her dying, I think of two scenes. I think of the one where Bullseye's got her sai. What's the weapon called? The sai.
Yeah, their sai. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he's got the sai stuck through her. Just like you talked about from the movie. And I think about the scene of Matt Murdock or Daredevil. Hugging her tombstone and crying because she's dead. Like, y'all know what scene I'm talking about, right? The comic book scene.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I don't feel like Matt was close enough to her at the time of her death to do that scene. You know what I'm saying?
I disagree. But at the same time, I don't necessarily agree with the character development that happened to Matt, because within a series of a few short episodes, he goes from hating her and wanting her out of his life to being like, I'm going to give up on everything and run away with you.
Yeah. That was kind of a quick turnaround.
Yeah.
Like that literally happened like right before they went to that final battle. where he sat down and was like, "Hey, if we survive this, I'm running
But
away
that's
with you."
also how I knew she was gonna die. Like, I 100% was just like, she is about to walk out this door and just get speared by like 40 fucking arrowheads. Because that's how it works.
Yeah.
Like in a lot of comics I've read, as soon as things start going really good for the characters, something bad's about to happen.
Yeah.
So that's it made it somewhat predictable for me. But at the same time, whenever Chase was talking about, like, have you finished the season yet? Because I want to talk to you about some stuff. I was just like, does Elektra die? And Chase just deadpan was like, no. But I think it's just to prevent the spoiler. And but at the same time, once it got close enough, I was just like, she dies.
Yeah. Well, see, I guess I was kind of naive to that because you said it was predictable whenever they were having that conversation for the last fight. I took it as, okay, that's them setting up that they're finally going to run off or do something. They're going to actually team up together and fall in love and have that loving relationship that as far as I know, they have in the comic books. But then she died anyway, and I was like, that's by Black Hand, or the Hand, or whatever the name of the group is called. And not Bullseye. Bullseye hasn't even been mentioned or anything to this point, unless there was an Easter egg that I missed.
No.
I
So
don't believe he is.
I was cut off guard by that. But talking about the spoiler and the way it ended, I guess we can kind of go into that.
Yeah.
So as far as the season ending, we find out that Elektra might be coming back. What do you guys think?
She's coming back.
Yeah, definitely coming back. There's no might.
I mean, that's kind of her thing. That's the thing in the comics. Yeah, she died, but guess what? She fucking came back.
Yeah. Chase, didn't you have something you wanted to talk about as far as the ending to the season?
Yeah, I do. I have a theory of why it ended the way it did, because just to go back to Punisher in general, just real quick, all the promotional material led me to believe this season, I know it's Daredevil's fucking show, so not every episode's gonna have the Punisher in it, and I get that, but I didn't think the Punisher would be run and done by episode 4, and then the rest of the fucking season he's just a trial. I hated that personally. Mm-hmm. I couldn't stand that. And then he finally breaks out, and he gets his revenge on who the fuck ever, general guy, and then it shows him gear the fuck up with a minigun, fucking armor, everything, and then he snipes 4 people, and that's fucking it.
And calls it a day.
My theory is they ran out of money for that scene. I think he was supposed to show up and gun down every one of those ninjas, and then let Matt fight dude. I can't remember his name right now.
Oh shit, Nobu, yeah.
Nobu, yeah.
Yeah, see, I think they ran out of funding for it, and they were just like, well, shit. What do we do?
Just snipe those fuckers.
Yeah, just let him snipe those guns. He's like, see you, Red, and he's out of there. So,
yeah, one big thing to take from that scene, though, this is kind of off subject, but one thing to take from that scene is the fact that he does know who Daredevil is now. Yeah, he was maskless that whole scene.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
One way you can be able to take that, because I didn't think about that until you mentioned it, Chase, but yeah, you're right. When he gears up and shit and burns down his house, he's walking off. He's got a huge ass gun and
minigun.
Yeah, I mean he's ready to fucking murder people, and then he shows up to the main fight and snaps 4 people and calls it a day. But maybe we can interpret that as he geared up. He accepted what life he's going to live from here on out when he burned down the house. He geared up to be prepared. And on his way out, he stopped by to help Daredevil before he moved on to his next venture.
Yeah.
So
I can see that too. And then real quick, something else about the ending that started to bother me is these guys know I'm all about the death penalty when it comes to superheroes. I think Batman should straight up fucking murder the Joker. That's just how I am about it. Uh-huh. But in the last 2 episodes of Daredevil season 2, people are just getting murdered left and right, and he doesn't even care anymore. And I was just that's not Daredevil. He's not even trying to stop Elektra from killing these ninjas. He's just going along with it. And then those 4 drop from the Punisher shooting him, and he's just whatever. And then he throws that guy off a fucking building. He's like, fuck him.
Oh, and I thought that's when he finally crossed that line too, when he threw Nobu off the building.
Because I mean, he didn't even check on him or nothing. He was just I fucking had it.
Yeah, and the way he acts after it happens, he's breathing real hard. He's kind of having it seems like he's having a mild panic attack. It's oh man, he knows what he just did. But then we find out that, and for all we know, he might still think that he killed Nobu, but we find out that Nobu's not dead, but he gets up just in time to get his head cut off by a stick.
Yeah.
So,
that was a little bothersome for me because it was out of character.
I can see where you're coming from with that, but like I feel like they kind of make it. I feel like they do kind of play on the fact that he does accept Elektra for like what she is.
Yeah,
And I can see that too.
He is very emotionally distraught for the whole third act of that season.
Yeah, like he's like, I don't agree with what you do. I'm not gonna do what you do.
But I have no control.
But you obviously have no control of you killing people, and I have no control of you killing people. So fucking do what you do.
And he's been dealing with this all season long. Like he dealt with it with the Punisher first, with the Punisher trying to justify, killing people, and then Elektra comes along and she's killing people. And I kind of agree with you guys. It gets to a point where Daredevil was like, "Fuck it, I haven't personally killed nobody, and they can do what they want," So,
yeah.
But overall, I think that pretty much wraps up all the main points of discussion we had for Daredevil. That's everything we had.
I do have a question for you guys.
Go ahead.
So there's a rumor that they're considering the Punisher for his own TV show.
Uh-huh.
Do you feel like that this actor could be a lead character?
I do.
Yeah.
I would actually. I'm
do.
very excited to see more Punisher, especially if it's in the form of his own solo TV show.
Well, the biggest thing that I want to see is him not in New York, personally. Because the most recent run of Punisher, it's not my favorite, but the most recent run of Punisher has him operating out of L.A. And I personally think we need to get more of these Netflix-based shows out of Hell's Kitchen.
God, everything's in New York. I mean, right now.
Yes and no. I do see where you're coming from, and it would be cool to explore some more stuff like that. But a lot of the street-level heroes, that's one of the things I really like about those comic books is they do see each other a lot.
That is a good point, and I do feel like they are gearing up to have a Netflix Avengers by sort of having a Defenders team.
Yeah, like a street level heroes like team. But one other thing I was gonna say was one thing that does kind of disappoint me about this season is the fact that it was not Bullseye that killed Elektra in this season, because that means that if they somehow ever do get to like Shadowland, we won't see Daredevil get his revenge.
Yeah,
That's a good point.
And I'm really hoping that Bullseye is season 3's bad guy because it felt like this season had no bad guy.
I think
that's a
season
good point.
3 will be. I think season 3 will be Kingpin and Bullseye.
Mm-hmm.
I
Like-
really hope so. I would
Like
love
legit Kingpin.
Real
that. Yeah, me
quick,
too.
real quick. Who would you guys classify as the main bad for this season? The Hand.
Yeah.
Kinda, I guess.
Well, the thing is that when I talked about this with Chase is that I don't feel like this season has an antagonist. I feel like it has conflict, but the conflict is between the protagonists.
Yeah.
Like the primary conflict is between Foggy and Matt and Karen, Matt and the Punisher and himself. Like it's all this intertwined net of just people conflicting with each other and their relationships falling apart.
Mhm.
That's what the actual like struggle of this season is, which could be disappointing for a lot of like comic book fans because they're used to supervillains. It's
Yeah.
not really a legit supervillain. There's no mastermind here. Like even Nobu was just like I have ninjas and we're gonna end the world. Like all of that felt very glossed over to me. Like to me, the big struggle was more or less just Matt's friendships and his business falling apart. And that's something I want to talk about is that, the traditional TV format is by the end of the episode, by the end of the season, everything's pretty much just where we left it. And that's not the case here. Like
Yeah.
season 1, you had a big struggle between Foggy and Matt until Matt finally revealed his identity, and then that sort of helped. But this season, I was waiting for Matt to reveal his identity and save his business because, Foggy's still so bad about him keeping secrets from Karen, nothing's working, and I just thought they would work it all out and be happy again. But then I was just like, no, this makes more sense. Like, you can't keep doing this to the people you care about.
Yeah.
And and it's not a Daredevil story if Nelson and Murdoch don't shut down at least one.
Yeah.
Well, we've seen it shut down twice now in the course of 2 seasons. I'll say that I'm over the whole Matt and Foggy just conflict. Like it feels old at this point because it was a large part of last season and it's been like the entire part of this season. And now I'm real interested to see what the conflict's going to be between him and Karen, because besides the fact that we saw the Hand preparing for the resurrection of Elektra, the way the season ended was Matt telling Karen that he is Daredevil by showing her the mask.
Yeah.
So I'm real curious to see where that goes. I know nothing about Karen really, as far as the comic books or anything is concerned. I don't know what.
She eventually dies.
Fantastic. Well, we got that to look forward to.
Something else I want to touch on that I almost forgot to say is I don't think Foggy's going to be in season 3, but I tell you what I think he's going to be in. I think he's going to be in season 2 of Jessica Jones.
Well, they kind of opened the door for that.
Yeah, and I think he's probably going to be a pretty focal point of it, but I could be wrong.
We'll see. And that's another point that we talk about how everything's taking place in New York. Because it does take place in New York, it has set up some really cool crossover. Because, we saw Claire, the nurse, in Jessica Jones, and then we saw Hogarth from Jessica Jones in this season of Daredevil when she interviewed Foggy for the job. So, because it all takes place in the same city, but it takes place in New York, it does allow some cool crossover like that. So, there's that. But yeah, overall, Daredevil Season 2 is awesome. If you haven't watched it, go watch it now. We've already spoiled everything for you, but you should still watch it because it's still awesome. And I can't wait for season 3.
Real quick, while I was talking about Karen dying, I just went to her page, and she straight up gets killed very similarly to like what Elektra does in like the old Daredevil movie. So that could be next season.
Oh, it could be.
Because Bullseye kills her. Bullseye's attempting to kill Daredevil with his own billy club, and Karen jumps in the way and intercepts it.
So yeah, they could combine some of those moments and still have something somewhat authentic.
Yep.
And it would give a reason for the...
And it would skip her drug addiction.
I would be okay with that. I feel like, especially when you have a condensed TV series, there's certain things you just need to gloss over and not mention at all Arrow. When it comes to drug addiction. But that's a whole different can of worms we'll get into some other point, probably. But, overall, we all really liked season 2 of Daredevil, and we highly recommend it. We can't wait for more. Of course, the next thing coming out, I think, is Luke Cage, because they're already teasing that. They've already had a quick little 10-second teaser for Luke Cage. So, and I'm excited about that as well. Okay, guys, well, we'll step in here and kind of give you, the listeners, a rundown on this episode. When we first recorded this episode on April 2nd, 2016, we jam-packed it full of the Spider-Man reveal, Daredevil Season 2, and Batman v Superman topics. We knew it was going to be kind of a lengthy episode because we knew we all had a lot to say, especially on the movie. What we did not expect was for the episode to actually be more than twice as long as what our episodes usually run. Usually our episodes are about an hour and a half long. This episode actually ended up being a little bit more than 3 hours long altogether. So what we ultimately decided to do was to cut the episode in half, let the Spider-Man Daredevil topics be episode 7, and then make a whole episode out of our Batman v Superman discussion, because that discussion alone ran for about 2 hours. So I think about 2.5 hours, actually, to be a little bit more accurate. So we're going to make that its own episode. It's going to be episode 8. So this actually will conclude this current episode for episode 7. If you're interested in the Batman versus Superman talk that we had to do, or that we didn't have to do it, but we did it for you guys because we enjoy talking about this stuff. That's why we do it in the first place. So if you want to check that episode out, be sure to go check out episode 8 of the Bro Op Radio podcast and see what we had to say. It's a very in-depth conversation. We basically put it all out on the table. We all had different opinions on the movie, and it actually made a really fun discussion. So be sure to go check that out, and we'll see you guys over in the next episode.